That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Ugly Stepsister, the directorial debut of Emilie Blichfeldt, which premiered at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival. It promptly played in Berlin right after that. IFC Films and Shudder are releasing it April 18th, 2025.
Directorial debut.
Yes.
What is The Ugly Stepsister about? It follows Elvira as she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme. She resorts to extreme measures to captivate the prince amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. What is your pull quote?
Beauty is in the eye of the scalp holder in Blichfeldt's sinister approach to Cinderella, which is about as literal an adaptation of a grim fairy tale ever made. Blissfully macabre, the message isn't pretty hurt so much as it is a moral fable to repudiate the toxic beauty standards we may be complicit in normalizing. To crib from Salt and Pepper, it's a film asking, and where is the body? Horror.
Mine's simple. Yes, it's another remake of a classic fairy tale, but The Ugly Stepsister is offering a more authentic, sinister take.
Yeah, I read some comments on Letterboxd saying it's the substance at Bridgerton, but I felt watching it felt like Jane Austen's version of the substance.
Sure.
Which you could call detest and detestability.
I suspect you liked this movie more than I did.
I think a little, maybe not by much. I think I agree with some of the same statements you made.
But I did enjoy it well enough, and I would certainly take something like this over another
Snow
live
White.
action Disney remake. But
Anything by Disney, yes.
yeah, so in that regard, this was a welcome turn.
I agree.
But I mean, y'all know Cinderella. This one is sort of flipped and dark, like the Grimm's fairy tale. So this lady and her two daughters show up at this house because the mom, the lady,
Rebekka, played by Dahl Torp.
who I liked.
Yeah, and she was at Berlin. She played a very different kind of mother in the film that won the Golden Bear, Dreams.
Oh, so she shows up with her two daughters, one being Elvira, and she's set to marry this old man. And the old man has a daughter, Agnes, who is ultimately Cinderella. Mm-hmm. And the gag about this version is that no one's really nice. They're all sort of despicable people, including the prince and everyone else.
Except for Elvira.
I don't think Elvira's like a sympathetic character, but
I felt for her.
we could talk about it.
Okay.
But anyway, like as soon as they all get there and they're having dinner, the old man drops dead. So of course, like, well, what are we gonna do? Because you have this lady, Rebekka, with her two daughters, and then now this new stepdaughter, Agnes / Cinderella. And Rebekka, the mother, really doesn't have a plan. First of all, we find out that Rebekka was going to marry this man because she thought he had money. And the man was marrying Rebekka because he thought she had money. But they were both wrong. They're both broke. Mm-hmm. So Rebekka feels like her only option is to have her daughter Elvira marry the prince. But let them tell it, Elvira's ugly. I don't think she's ugly. They make her look like she has puffy cheeks and she has braces. And I'm assuming there was a body double to make her look a little more corpulent. Mm-hmm. So immediately the mother gets treatments for her daughter Elvira, starting with getting her braces removed and getting a nose job. Then she proceeds to have her daughter swallow a tapeworm.
No, she doesn't the mother doesn't do that. That's one of the school instructors.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So then to take it a step further, Elvira takes a tapeworm egg to help her lose weight. At one point, she has eyelashes sewn into her eyes. Mm-hmm. And then some time passes and we see that now Elvira's healed and has lost weight. So she's more beautiful and the prince should like her. And then her mother, Rebekka, borrows services to get her a beautiful dress. So everything sort of culminates with the night of this ball.
That has been hanging over their heads where Prince Julian is supposed to be finding his mate. And also in that interim, Agnes, aka Cinderella, has suffered a fall from grace.
Yeah, because now that her dad's dead, she kind of is like the servant to...
Well, she gets caught having sex with the stable boy and this prince just wants virgins. So that is what Rebekka uses to kind of punish her and basically make Agnes their maid.
That's right. But right before the ball, Elvira finds out that Agnes is trying to go to the ball as well. So they get into a fight. Elvira tears up her dress. But that night, Agnes is visited by a vision of her mother. And the mother is telling her, like, you can go to the ball. There are these silkworms mending her dress. She gets shoes. She's told that a carriage will materialize for her, but it's all going to go away at midnight. Mm-hmm. But we cut to the ball, and Elvira shows up, and they think her dress is beautiful. I thought it was so ugly, but she's supposed to be the most beautiful lady at the ball, and the prince chooses her. And as they're dancing, guess who pops in? Cinderella.
A veiled woman.
Veiled,
basically.
But clearly more beautiful than Elvira. So the prince goes to her. They start dancing. Elvira freaks out. We can get back to it. But the clock strikes midnight, so Cinderella leaves. That night...
And leaves a slipper behind.
And that night, Elvira confronts Cinderella. Because she's like, I know it was you. I saw your face and you have this other slipper. But the mom, Rebekka's like, it can't be her. Like, are you crazy? The mom's also preoccupied because she has brought home this young man to have sex with. Mm-hmm. But Elvira is desperate, so what does she do? Knowing that the prince is going to come look for his future bride who's missing this shoe, and we know that Elvira's foot is comically larger than Cinderella's, Elvira chops her toes off.
But of the wrong foot.
But of the wrong damn foot.
That reminded me of that film noir, The Scar, anyway.
So her mother is like, well, here's some pain medication, and also you chopped off the wrong foot. So her mother chops off the toes on her other foot. Mm-hmm. Then we flash forward a little bit, and we hear that the prince is here trying to find his bride, and Elvira is dead to the bed. She looks crazy. Somehow between when she chopped her toes off and the day the prince shows up, she's like lost a tooth.
She's fallen into
decrepitude. I don't know what happened. Also, because of her tapeworm and the malnutrition, she's lost her hair. So she looks like a monster.
Did it remind you of Drop Dead Gorgeous?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The cheerleader that has the eating disorder.
So, of course, the prince takes Cinderella and leaves. And then Elvira's sister realizes, like,
Alma,
we need to get out of here. So the end of the story is that Alma leaves with her sister. And Elvira can't walk because she chopped her toes off. So her sister is carrying her like a wheelbarrow, which I thought was the funniest part. But that's the end. Mm-hmm. So I think you had talked about this in our Berlin recap, maybe, or you had mentioned this movie before, and like,
or maybe in Snow White.
Oh, maybe that, and there was buzz around it, and then I had read something and how it's like shockingly grotesque and like the new standard for body horror. All the things I read felt hyperbolic or feel hyperbolic now that I've seen the movie.
Those are hyperbolic statements, yes.
Because yes, we did grimace when she gets her nose job, because without any anesthesia, this person just like takes a tool to her nose and cracks it. Mm-hmm. And then watching her get her eyelashes sewn in is pretty gruesome. But for the next hour, it's just kind of bleak.
It sits at one level and it doesn't really go, it doesn't gravitate from that level. So I think that it's a monotony kind of sets in a bit.
So tell me why you felt more bad. I felt more bad for Cinderella, maybe.
I felt bad for her too, but
But they're both not like nice, good people.
I think they both felt human, and doing the truth underneath this veneer of the honorable virgins they're looking for is like, Agnes is a hoe, and they really put Elvira through it. What would she have been like if she hadn't faced these kind of extreme pressures?
You know what? Sure, I do agree with that, because also Elvira and Alma's mama wasn't shit. So what chance did they stand except to find a man and get out of there? And so, of course, Elvira did what she had to do.
And then there's a scene where she accidentally runs into Prince Julian, whose book of poetry she's reading the whole damn time, which also, of course, are all lies. And him and his trashy little friends, he's a sleazebag as well.
Yeah.
But the mother, she married this man. She is the guardian of Agnes / Cinderella. I don't know why she didn't just say, like, we're gonna hook you up with him and then live off of your back.
Right, because before Cinderella sullies her purity, she really stood a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, why didn't she? But that's not the story, I guess.
That's true. Also, like, why didn't you just try breaking up that shoe?
Yeah, can't you get like a new shoe? Well, he had the other one.
Sure,
so.
but it reminded me of old maiden shoe. You need put away that glass slipper and get some old maiden shoes, girl, and just live your best life.
Okay, when Elvira meets her new stepdad, they're having dinner at this very small table. And
should have been a sign.
Yeah, they don't have any money. But they have this beautiful cake, and the old man, grabs some of the cake and throws it out at Elvira. Like, I don't know if he was making fun of her because she's ugly. Or...
I think so. And then he dies, which I guess karma.
Yeah. Okay. Then we immediately cut to the beauty treatments performed by Dr. Esthétique. And I was kind of hoping that the film would have more of that vibe, like kind of like fun, nasty, like cringy.
Well, to me, that's the body
grotesque.
horror. I think that's what's horrifying about those, or that's in the realm of reality. Because once we get into kind of the gross out stuff with the tapeworm, like that's very exaggerated.
Okay, hold on to the tapeworm because, well, let's keep going with that. Yeah, I was expecting for the next hour to see this young lady put herself through torture to be beautiful. But she really doesn't. After the eyelash installation and the tapeworm, for an hour we just hear her stomach rumbling. I was fully expecting, the front room with that old lady farting and shitting. Catherine Hunter, like shitting all over her room, and that was more gross to me. I was expecting stuff like that where this young lady is shitting on herself. I was expecting scenes of her like being corseted to the point where she's bleeding and it makes her vomit. I was expecting stuff like that. We don't get any of that.
No, I think we spend a lot of time with how she's treated in ballet and dance class, because the two women that are ostensibly running this school appear to be a lesbian couple, and the dance instructor is very cruel.
I also thought that her going to these like etiquette classes, I guess, to make her suitable for the prince, and her learning ballet, and the instructor, who I did find very interesting.
Yeah.
It felt like that was because the movie feels a little too long.
Sure.
But it's like all this rehearsal for the dance, and then when we finally get to the dance at the ball, that shit was tired.
Well, it's such a build up to it. And you're like, when is this damn ball? How far in advance were they planning this ball?
When we see Elvira dance, it's her with two backup dancers, and they're dressed like, they look like Pinocchio to me. And they were doing this really slow, like, it was not remarkable at all.
Well, to me, it's almost like, is that in her head, how that's playing out?
Maybe.
But the subversive part about the dance school is what you think is an act of kindness is the beautiful instructor that it seems to be she's having one-on-ones with all the students, and Agnes or Elvira is still recovering from her nose surgery. They give her this cover, like this metal nose cover that looks like the same thing they gave to people suffering from syphilis whose nose was rotten away, and she's trying to comfort her and console her, and she's like, you remind me of myself when I was a young age, and she's like, here, I have something for you, and it looks like a small compact, and it's like, oh, she's giving this.
I thought it was a piece of jewelry.
Something to make her feel good. And it's like, it's a tapeworm egg.
It's a tapeworm egg, like, damn.
Wow. And it's funny, this past year, the film that won the Locarno Film Festival, a Lithuanian film called Toxic, does the exact same thing, because I'd never really thought of that before, but that concerns a young girl who wants to be a model in her small Lithuanian town. She buys a tapeworm egg off the dark web.
Oh.
And then, of course, similar things happen to her body where you're not supposed to do that to yourself.
Okay, two areas where I was expecting maybe a little bit more, considering the runtime and the fact that we spent a lot of time at this dance situation. First of all, the old man who's dead, they can't afford to bury his ass. So he's like in the basement somewhere.
He's
rotting away. And we see it the first time, and he clearly is rotting. And then at the end, Cinderella goes down there to be with her dad, and that's when she has the vision of her mother, and that's when her dress materializes. And we see the the corpse is like fully rotted.
That would smell so bad.
I was kind of expecting more with that. And another area I was expecting more of is, so after the ball and after Elvira has chopped her toes off and her mama chopped off the other 5 toes, and she looks all crazy, then we see that she's like missing a tooth. And then after the prince picks up Cinderella and Elvira and Alma leave, now Elvira's nose looks broken.
Yeah,
how did that
it
happen?
looks beaked.
So the title of the movie, The Ugly Stepsister, at the very end, she really is ugly. But I was hoping maybe like we would have extended the end to see how she deteriorates. Like, it doesn't feel full circle. Like, oh, she started out as like a perfectly normal looking young lady to then becoming this beautiful swan that the prince would want, to then becoming this ugly troll. It just doesn't feel like it has a proper arc.
Well, I also am not quite sure. I think Elvira, who's played by Lea Myren, has any real interiority. Beyond that moment I referenced where she gets the tapeworm egg, we don't really see a lot or see in how she's really feeling about anything.
No.
Like, of course, she's physically suffering.
I agree. Although I will say, I think the actor who played Elvira did a very good job.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I liked Cinderella as well, or Agnes, played by Sophie Loch Næss is her name.
You do see erect penises twice. Once when Cinderella is having sex with like the stable boy, and then the mom, when Alma, at the very end, when Alma's going to tell her mom like, hey, we're leaving, the mom is in her bedroom having sex with some young man, and you see his penis, and she totally ignores her daughter and gets back to work.
That reminded me of The Beast a little bit.
Oh, sure. We do know how much time has passed because we're told three full moons have passed, and now we see that Elvira looks like her best self.
Gaunt.
I do think it's funny. Elvira likes to eat.
Well, yeah.
Well, but as someone who also likes to eat, I know that I don't like to eat when I have an upset stomach. And even when we hear, like, she has stomach pains and you can hear her stomach turning.
It was a different time.
And she's still carrying a plate. She always has a plate of food somewhere eating.
The stuff hidden under the bed was giving me Brittany Murphy and Girl Interrupted without the chicken carcasses.
I think that's another missed opportunity to make it gross. Like, I was expecting, even the substance, the scene where Demi Moore is watching
Margaret Qualley
on that Tonight Show and she's eating and it's all gross. I was expecting something like that, where Elvira is she just has such a toxic relationship with food that maybe she's eating food that is like covered in maggots because she's so delirious, or like after she got her eyelash extensions put in, she's effectively like blind for a minute. That would have been the perfect opportunity for her to eat nasty stuff because she can't see it.
Well, because Agnes takes pity on her and is giving her food, and Agnes it's cake. It's like, I thought for sure that was a lie. Because it's also very dimly lit.
Well, I've never seen The Help, but I know there's like shit pie.
There is Octavia Spencer.
That would have been good. Like, Agnes feeds Elvira like shit cake.
But I don't think Agnes is evil. She's also a woman in a certain situation.
In a certain circumstance. But yeah, there are just so many moments where I was expecting it to go a little further.
Yeah, and I think that with the initial reactions from where it's played, that people being grossed out and gagged and somebody vomiting, I think those maybe are more fragile constitutions because it didn't do that. And to me, it rests in the realm of shock value, and I think I wanted more. That said, I kept feeling that the two young women, Elvira and Agnes, they had really large pupils. It must have been because of the dim lighting on the set, but I noticed that several times, and like their pupils look really big, like they were on something.
Just a couple more things. When Elvira gets her beautiful dress to wear to the ball, it's this man who brings it. And clearly the mother, Rebekka, is going into debt trying to get Elvira set up for success. And that man, because the film, the language that's being spoken is Norwegian, but the man, the translation says that he's her good fairy, which I thought was cute. Also, when Elvira is presented at the ball, because her mom has to present her to the prince and the court, their approach is to have her walk in like an obedient dog, which was kind of creepy because the men are losing it. Because, like you already mentioned, the prince and his little buddies are all detestable people.
Trash.
So they're talking about her like, oh, you should choose her because you can use her like however you want. And we've already seen them being nasty prior. So you already know where this is going.
But that said, I don't know. It just doesn't have... It just doesn't hit as hard as something I feel like The Substance does.
Yeah.
Which is a bit more gonzo, to be fair. But I don't know. I think this was already kind of overhyped by the time I'm seeing it, perhaps. But it did make me think of this passage from Rilke.
Okay.
For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror, which we are barely able to endure, and it amazes us so because it serenely disdains to destroy us. I mean, clearly it's saying a lot about beauty standards and how we suffer for them and maybe how ridiculous they are, well, definitely how ridiculous they are. But again, it feels like, strangely, it is just skin deep.
What would you give The Ugly Stepsister?
I'm still going to give it a 3. I would much rather see, especially for a first film, you have to consider too, but I would much rather see somebody making these kind of choices and telling stories this way than the dribble we get from the Hollywood studio system.
I agree. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I think it's fine, so I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5. The film ends with the word slut, which is Norwegian for end, which I think is really cute.
Yeah.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.